10 weeks ago, I was laid off from my tech job, so I decided to go full-time car builder, and I took my first paid commission build to B16 swap this 1996 Honda Civic Hatchback. Then, about 7 weeks ago, I embarked on Project Super Garage. I knocked down half my garage, expanded it about 50 square feet, and installed a double-wide car lift. But I've been working on the Civic in the background, and today I'm going to pick up where we left off in the last episode, where I got the old engine pulled out and the B16 dropped in. Alright, so we're back working on the 1996 Honda Civic. I'm not working on the garage, I'm getting some fresh air out on the side here because my garage is still being transformed. It's still about halfway done. So I'm just making do with what I got. And I'm hoping today to get the engine completely mounted. When I kind of slapped this thing in here, I reused the two engine mounts that I had. I was missing the third one, and I was also missing the two torque mounts. Oh, there you go. As you can see, this thing's rocking back and forth just a little bit. So I got the third missing piece, hopefully, which is this bad boy right here. This is the T-bracket that goes on the back, something like that. This is from a 2000 Civic Si, kind of a rare piece, but they do make them new, and this thing was cheap, like 30 bucks on Amazon. So let's get this installed and get this engine finally officially mounted. All right, whew, I got this back bracket on there, got this front one on there, and this thing was a little bit of a struggle, just because, you know, lining up when this engine's already in here is really difficult. Actually ended up putting a ratchet strap across this guy and kind of tilting the engine forward so that I can kind of pry the the bolt hole into place, and finally got that bolt in there. So at this point, this thing is officially mounted in here. Oh, and I guess I got to put that torque mount in here. I got a new guy for that one, so I'll put that other torque mount in there now, and then we'll call this guy mounted and we can start, I don't know, doing something else. All right, so we got this bad boy up on race ramps here, up on blocks, and I think the first thing I want to do is turn this into a stick shift. So here are what I think are all the parts, or at least most of the parts here. We've got some shift linkage here, shifter rods, and the shifter actually. This is from an Acura Integra, I believe. We got a clutch pedal out of a Honda Accord, and a couple of little other things, shift boots and stuff. Inside here, I guess the first thing we ought to do is tear apart this center console and start looking up under there to mount this clutch pedal. All right, I got this thing mostly taken apart, but it kind of looks like this thing is actually bolted from the bottom. Let's pop under and see what we got. Bingo, there we go. We got 4 nuts down here. Of course, it's a 10 millimeter, so let's get those guys off. There we go. Ah, no. There's something else to this? What the heck? Ah, there we go. Oh, we got a wire. All right, there we go. All right, well, I'm struggling to get this thing on here on this shifter, pin thing, but it's probably just really dirty in here, so I'll have to take this guy off and clean it out. This seems to go right there. However, we are off down here. I don't know why. I wonder if this isn't the right shift linkage after all. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. The guy must have sold me the wrong stuff. Here's Here's the issue. It does not fit. I suppose if I shorten this stuff though, it should be okay. I guess it's nice when everything bolts up, but it's kind of not the reality when you do engine swaps. There's always something. I swear when I was looking at this stuff, originally they were like, oh, just buy some Acura Integra linkage and it'll bolt right up. And now when I'm looking it up, it's like, oh, you have to shorten whatever D series or whatever B series rather transmission linkage. So it's almost like whenever you Google something, you can find the answer you want, but not necessarily the answer that's correct. I don't know, it's a weird phenomenon. Seems to happen to me a lot. So we're gonna pull this back out of there. Or actually, first we're gonna measure. It looks like we're off by maybe like 3 or 4 inches. We're gonna figure out where we can take out 3 or 4 inches. Probably right there, actually, because it kind of seems like that's adjustable. And then we'll be okay. All right, so I got these guys all cut, cleaned, and I got some weld through primer on all these guys just to make sure it doesn't rust behind this thing. I did make a mistake though. Unfortunately, I forgot to mark the clocking. So, you know, this, let's see here. This guy will go on here like this somehow, but I don't know in what orientation, which is kind of a bummer. But I was thinking I would just mock it all up there anyway, even if I had marked the clocking. So not too big of a deal. We'll just basically get this thing installed in there, and then wherever it naturally kind of fits, I think that'll be safe to tack, you know, and then we'll try shifting. And as long as it shifts and it feels good, I think we'll be good. Whew, all right, I got this guy pulled out of there. It took a little bit of finagling. I actually had a spot weld drill bit, which I learned about after drilling or grinding whatever, like 100 spot welds on my Challenger. And it worked okay. It was all right. I went through a couple of places, but no big deal. As long as this remained more or less intact, I can pretty easily just put a plate on there, fill in everything with weld, and we will be good to go, just like factory. All right, here we go. Got one OEM looking cover plate. I'll go ahead and hit this with some weld through primer, and then we'll get it welded in that guy. All right, got this guy all welded up. Did like a little puddle weld right where the old spot welds were, so probably hit that with some primer, some paint, covered up and hidden by the center console. All right, got this guy welded up. Looks good, definitely more strong than stock. And I can even see a little bit of penetration on the backside here, so it's a pretty good sign that that guy got welded all the way through. Same with this guy. Can see a little burn through there. Cool, looks good. Let's throw this guy in there and shift some gears, son. All right, here we go. We'll see if we can get into first gear. There we go. Second, good. Third is good. Fourth gear. Fifth gear, awesome. Let's see if we can get into reverse. Oh, reverse too, sweet. All right, I got this stuff all painted up, drying, looking pretty good if you ask me. Looking factory. I'll let that stuff dry, but in the meantime, I got one more part to do some adjusting to. I do need to make an adjustment here to this throttle cable bracket. I bought this aftermarket thing. They said it works with all B16 engines, and it does not work with this one. As you can see, this thing is just a little bit, actually quite a bit too long. I'll probably, I'll cut it right about there, just leave a little bit for me to weld on, and shrink this down, weld it, paint it, you know the drill. All right, looking pretty good. Got a nice little bevel on this guy, as one does in situations like these, just to make sure that the weld penetrates, gets down in there. Let's go ahead and zap this guy. All right, got this guy all painted and dried. However, unfortunately, I'm an idiot, and I welded this thing on backwards. This obviously does not, oops, okay. This does not go this way, it's supposed to go this way, so I'm gonna have to cut this off, re-weld it, reprime it, and repaint it. All right, so the next thing I think I want to start working on here is wiring. I think I've delayed it long enough. I am not 100% sure how this is going to fit the old harness with the new harness. I read that it was more or less supposed to like fit right up with maybe just a couple of changes, but it's pretty obvious to me that that's not quite the case. So I'm just gonna start plugging stuff in that, that is compatible, and we'll figure out what to do. I do have both engine harnesses. I got the B16 harness right there. And then of course, I left all this stuff in the car, so wish me luck. Okay, well, I got the wiring harness more or less in place. I think it's routed pretty close to where it's supposed to be. A few of the sensors or whatever wires plugged back in, but most of them did not. And I kept reading online that you could plug in any OBD2 harness, whether it's a D16 or a B16 or whatever, and that's absolutely not the case. I didn't have my hopes up, but I kind of expected there to be a little bit more compatibility between these sensors. I got, as I expected, some transmission stuff I'll probably just end up cutting. And I got only a couple of mystery wires that I don't know what they go to. But I downloaded and printed out a whole bunch of this stuff here, which is wiring diagrams. Basically, the whole engine harness should be noted in here, wire colors, all that stuff. I always like wiring. I feel like it's one of my strong suits, one of my happy places. So I think I'm going to start with the injectors first, and this should tell me what to do. All right, there we go. We got our 4 injectors here, and I guess the idea will be to splice them in to these 4 injectors right here. All right, I got all of these wires connected up to, I'm pretty sure, I'm hoping where they're supposed to go to. Got them all crimped. And let me just say a quick little explanation for why I'm crimping these guys as opposed to soldering them. I used to solder everything. I'm always trying to improve the way I do things, and I read somewhere about how crimping can actually be a better method for connecting two wires like this, especially if your wire is going to be subject to a lot of vibration, which definitely, like engine wiring, stuff like that, is going to be the most vibraty of all the wires. So one problem with soldering is that when it cools off, you end up with like a very hard little section of wiring, basically like a chunk of metal in there, and you end up kind of ruining the wire's flexibility. So when you got this guy, I don't know why this isn't focusing, hold on, there we go. When you got this guy here, you can see that there's still actually quite a bit of flex. You're not really risking anything breaking there. But if I were to have soldered this, I would have this like crispy little, hard piece. And sometimes, especially when you're soldering thick wires like, 10 gauge or something like that, the solder actually fills up quite a bit and you end up with this like crunchy zone, which I've experienced can, cause some fragile situations with the wiring. So this supposedly, as long as you get yourself a fancy ratcheting type crimper like this, and then you get some like high quality crimps, and I went way down the rabbit hole and I spent a good bit of money getting this bad boy here. As long as you do high quality crimps, I think that's really the key. You don't want to use like, this type of crimper here with those cheap like Radio Shack, whatever crimps, but get some good stuff. I still do some heat shrink, all that stuff. This should be the superior way to connect two wires. All right, before I loom and wrap this guy, there's one other wire that I want to run with these. We have the air intake temperature sensor over here. Now, this is the D16's air intake temperature. It's close. It's got two wires, but this plug does not fit, and it also does not reach as it stands now. Yeah, we're gonna have to cut this and extend it, and I did find, it looks like the air intake temperature sensor wire from the B16. So got plenty of wire here. The wire colors are similar. We got a red with yellow, green with white. We got a red with yellow, and then we got a green with black. My instincts tell me that red with yellow, whatever, but let's double check. That's exactly the type of thing that, just assuming that causes some electrical gremlins. All right, here we go. Air intake temperature sensor, green and black, looks like a common wire. Oh, this is for 1996. Okay, 96 to 98, so that's the original wiring harness here. So green and black and red and yellow is correct. The red and yellow is the information, the ECU wire, and the other one is a reference wire. I don't know if it's ground or power, whatever it is. I'd love to find, 1999, 2000 V16, green and black. All right, I didn't find, what was it, green and white? I didn't see anything about that, but this is kind of an odd wiring harness. I'm not actually sure if this particular wiring harness is from a 2000 Civic. I know that this engine is from a 2000 Civic, but I think that this was converted to like OBD1 or maybe even OBD0. But I did see something online about the green and white wire being the ground color for some B16s, whereas green and black seems to be a ground wire. So yeah, I feel good about that. So we're gonna connect green and white to green and black, and then of course red yellow to red yellow. All right, next little wire snag we got here is the idle air control valve. It looks like throttle position sensor, map sensor plug in just fine, so that's awesome. And then also the evap purge valve solenoid is a mystery wire that I think has just been deleted on this engine. And that's what this guy and I think this guy plug into. So I'll probably have to go buy one of those valves. That's fine, I guess. That's some emission stuff that oftentimes get deleted on engines like this. So that leaves me with the idle air control valve. And I think this is the last one for all of the intake manifold stuff. And there actually aren't too many more from here. Yeah, anyway, I'll try not to turn this into a how-to wiring swap guide for a Honda, but this is the kind of stuff that you hit where I'm just not 100% sure exactly how to wire this in. So it kind of seems like everybody's saying that This orange wire here is just for automatic transmissions. My guess is that, you put it in drive, it drops the idle down, so this probably compensates for that. That's my guess. So I think I can cut that guy, and these two wires go to these two wires. It seems like the black and blue wire is the ECU signal, so that begs the question here, which one is which on this guy? And I read something that this black-yellow is a power wire. It is the thicker wire, so that would kind of make sense. So I'm thinking the black-blue goes to the blue-white, and the yellow-black goes to the black-yellow. What I'm going to do is make a note that if this thing does not want to idle, or idles, I'm not sure, high or low, I think that'll probably make it idle low without that idle air control valve. I'll swap those wires. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about the wiring situation. Got a couple of wires here to wire up for the VTEC. I knew that was coming. These are additional wires I'm gonna have to get into the ECU somehow. I'll figure that out. We're looking pretty good though. Wiring, I feel comfortable about it. Not necessarily on the inside. Still got a lot to do with the ECU, but I think for now, I wanna go ahead and put the exhaust manifold on this guy. And I got this one, which I pulled out of something, Acura Integra or something like that. Got myself a fresh gasket. So let's get this bad boy on there. All right, exhaust is in, bolted down, torqued down. I got the downpipe installed, and I even got an O2 sensor installed and plugged in. So I think we're all set for that. All right, so the next thing I want to work on here is getting the current wiring harness here, because I am keeping, of course, the 96 Civic's wiring harness. I want to get it to work with the 1999 or whatever Civic Si computer here. And the plugs are the same, as in like the same shape, but the wires are different for some reason. I don't know. At some point, Honda had changed over their OBD2 to a totally different setup, but they kept the same plugs, which is kind of weird. A lot of these wires moved around positions for some reason. Not a big deal. It looks a little daunting, but actually it's, like I always say about wiring, it's a vast amount of very simple things. So it's not really hard per se, it's just kind of tedious. And another thing I gotta do here is add VTEC, because this is a non-VTEC wiring harness, so I'm probably gonna have to add, or definitely gonna have to add a couple of wires here to run the little VTEC thing. And there aren't very many, I think like 2 or 3. So yeah, I guess really I got a chart here and a chart here, and I just kind of have to go one by one and match up and make sure that, actually unpin some of these wires here and put them into the right slot. And hopefully that's it. And then we can plug in this ECU and it should be all wired up the way we need it. All right, I think I got everything switched over. We went from 4 to 3 connectors, and I think that's all automatic transmission stuff. I had to change almost every single wire. I don't know where I read online that it said, oh, I just got to flip over a couple of wires, but you actually get to leave a couple of wires and switch over everything else. I think only 2 wires were the same. Yeah, these 2 guys right here. That was quite an ordeal. It took me a few hours for sure, but actually pretty straightforward. We'll see what the check engine light says. We'll see what the OBD2 scan says after this is all said and done. If I got anything crossed or messed up, that should tell me. But otherwise, we can call the wiring done, actually. We can call all of it done. Awesome. All right, I got some fluids put in this thing, oil, distilled water, Got the transmission fluid in, even though I think we're not going to be using that. Shouldn't matter. So yeah, I think this thing is ready for a first start. I got the new computer hooked up there and got all the wires all the extra wires kind of dangling out there. I don't know, you never feel like you're ready, but at some point you kind of just have to go for it, and I think it's time. I think it's time to find out if this engine runs well or whatever. A lot of unknowns here because this is kind of a mystery engine. I know it has good compression and I know it spins over obviously, so let's see what happens. I'll give it a quick little turn. My guess is that nothing will happen at first because there's probably some sort of neutral safety situation in there, so I'll probably have to jumper some wires, but I'm gonna give it a try anyway. We'll see what happens. All right, here we go. If this starts up, it's gonna be very loud because this is open headers, open exhaust. Oh, I hear gasoline. That was the fuel pump firing up, and I hear some leakage. Let's see what happened. Oh yeah, we got some gasoline leaking back here somewhere. Is that gasoline? Doesn't smell like gasoline. That's weird. What else could it be? Oh, I think it was the windshield washer. Okay, I don't know why the windshield washer went off. That was very strange. Is that what that was? Yeah, this just doesn't smell like gasoline. That must be windshield washer fluid. That is peculiar. Where is that knob? Like, that was something I didn't expect. Okay, that's good. It wasn't fuel because all of the fuel is over on this side. So fuel still looks pretty happy. Okay, we turned it off. Whoa, okay. I did not hear the fuel pump actually, so that's not a good sign, but let's turn the key and see what happens. Absolutely nothing. Okay, not a big surprise. Let me figure out the neutral safety thing and then we'll try this again. All right, supposedly it's just these two wires right here that I need to connect. I pulled them out of this plug right here. Black and white and black and red wires. So I got those two taped together. That should be good enough just to give this a try. All right, let's see. Neutral, all right. Oh, it's turned over. That's a good sign. I did not hear the fuel pump though, so I don't know, maybe Honda fuel pumps are super quiet or maybe I'm doing something wrong, I'm not sure. Let me give it a few more cranks. Oh, let's try, I did wanted to. Yeah, okay, now I'm not sure that it tried. Yeah, it's definitely not firing up, but I'll try next to figure out why the fuel pump isn't turning on. All right, I think I figured out what was wrong. A little strange, but all right. So I did dig out this Honda main relay, which is a kind of starter relay, or I don't know, it's kind of a whole EFI relay combo, and the fuel pump relay is built into this guy. The first thing I tested was the continuity between what I found to be the fuel pump signal right there, and it's a green and yellow wire, just like the green and yellow wire that I have going to the fuel pump circuit here on the ECU. There was no continuity. Somehow that wire got cut or disconnected or something. I have no idea. I got it kind of hardwired into the control side of the fuel pump. And now, I don't know if you can hear that, but I definitely had a click over there and I had a click on the fuel pump. So I think I have it hardwired at this point where I might actually be able to test it right now. Yeah, let's try and fire it up. All right, I'm a little nervous. All right, here we go. Oh, yeah, it started. Okay, one more time. All right, I think I might not have any like idle or idle adjustments, so let me give it some gas here. Oh yeah, it works, it runs. Yes, it started, it worked, and it sounded good. Oh, that is awesome. Obviously, it was a little crazy sounding because it has just open exhaust right there. And it did not seem to want to idle, but I probably have some sort of weirdness going on with my idle air control valve. So that's okay too. But it runs, baby. This thing runs.